All right, looks like we're live. See, this is going out okay onto the YouTubes. Come on. There we go. Alrighty. And before we even start, let's go ahead and bang out the sponsors real quick, shall we? Sponsors this live stream, as it has been for the previous live streams, are the books Ravendale and Veritas Morte, or Morte, or I don't know. I'm bad at pronouncing things. Veritas Morte is the tale of a young prince in the intergalactic empire who, on his first mission out into the far reaches of the empire, well, things go terribly wrong. And he needs to get to the bottom of who assassinated him, learn who he can trust. I don't have the ad copy in front of me. I'm really half-assing this. Because I'm thinking I'm going to give both these guys a free Saturday show. But as I said, check that book out. If you like space opera, you'll like that book. And Ravendale is the story of a futuristic city in the clouds where everyone can fly and no one knows how it all came to be. And one girl attempts to figure it out. And that's the story of Ravendale. So check out both books. Links down in the description for both. Okay, so that out of the way, because I don't even know if it's going to be a proper show. If I'll end up going the full hour that I usually go for the weekday shows. Let's see, what the hell did I want to talk about? The suicide of the NFL continues full blown. And I couldn't be happier to fuck the NFL. And again, the amount of people that's going to wake up, the amount of people that are going to have to wake up. It really is a shame, though, to watch entertainment dying the way it is. I've talked in length here about how unbelievably bad Marvel Comics has gotten. Star Trek, this new Star Trek show is, Star Trek's always been kind of left-wing, but this new Star Trek show is just hideously SJW by all accounts. It's a shame. But I've said before on here, and I'll say it again. I'm a man of faith, and I tend to think things happen for a reason. And I have to wonder, there's real problems in this country. There's real problems in Western civilization. There's real problems in the world that need to be addressed, need to be fixed. So maybe the good Lord is taking our toys away till we clean up our room. And I don't like seeing all this happen. I don't like seeing a lot of cool things just ruined by these SJW barbarians. But yeah, that's the best case scenario out of all of it. And there's still good stuff in the internet. The Orville was actually surprisingly good. Episode 3 was terrible, but all in all, it's a decent series. I think it can grow into something. I think it would be extremely hilarious if the Orville ends up becoming a successful show, while Star Trek Discovery, fails in a season. So he says Bechtloff streams so much because he is loyal. He has a loyal fan base and he enjoys talking to us. Well, it's. I don't know why I stream so much, to be honest. I generally like my fans. I give some of them a hard time on stuff, but by and large, most of the comments are pretty good. Somebody commented on last night's video. Last night, if you missed it, I think it turned out to be a pretty damn good show. I rambled on about Hugh Hefner for a while. And I was talking about a lot of the a lot of the trad right folks that were all like, I'm glad he's dead, or spit on his grave, man. I really thought it was uncalled for. And as I said, don't get me wrong, I engage in the sin of wrath far too much than I should myself. But I never felt that way toward Hefner. I just think he was a misguided hedonist. I don't think he had any real malice in his heart about it. And I don't even think calling him a smut peddler was ever fair. What he peddled wasn't porn. It was definitely fantasy, but I wouldn't call it porn. It was almost lifestyle porn. It was, the fantasy of being James Bond minus being shot at. It was, it was just that lifestyle that he was pandering, the Playboy lifestyle. I don't think, I don't think the guy had any real malice in his heart, and I felt bad for him. I don't think he was contented towards the end of it. As much as from a worldly perspective he had everything, I don't think he was happy with it. I don't think he ever had many real friends. I think in the position he was in, he probably had a hard time even knowing who was a real friend. How many people actually wanted to spend time with you and didn't just want to spend time at the mansion? Yeah, like I said, I had a lot of sympathy for him. And what really bothered me as a Christian about it, and I was reminded of it through the absolute viciousness I saw from the trad right regarding his death. And I mean, guys I generally like, Earl Grey, I generally like him. He's pretty fucking autistic, but most of the trad guys really are when you break it down. Most of them are just fucking LARPers when you break it down. It's far too easy to look at the problems of the present and romanticize the past. A few major problems that need fixed aside, you're living in a pretty sweet time and place. And every once in a while, you ought to thank God for that. The mere fact that you have a grocery store you can go to is something 99% of humanity throughout most of history would have killed for. Something like that. But yeah, a lot of the trad guys, they're kind of fucking autistic about it. And I like Earl Grey, but I mean, he was just the level of viciousness. I can't get behind that. Not for him. There are people I could. I mean, I could get behind it for like McCain when he dies. Fuck yeah, It's a disgrace that man will be buried in Arlington Cemetery. That's one of this nation's biggest disgraces. But not you, Hefner. I don't think the smut peddler charge was called for. And again, what really troubled me, and it's actually troubled me about him for years, as I often wondered how much real exposure to true, genuine Christianity, the real gospel of grace, did that man ever get? I would assume 99% of his dealings with Christians were shrieking, moralizing busybodies trying to shut down his business. And you may think that his business needed shut down. The point is, that's all he ever saw of Christianity. In his mind, I have no doubt Christianity was nothing but a bunch of shrieking lunatics who wanted to ruin his livelihood and take away his fun. I highly doubt anybody ever reached out to that man and was concerned with his soul. I mean, sure, a few people, but probably not that many people with real prominent voices. And that's just a shame. Yeah, that's just a shame. Because as I said before, I mean, I was never gonna live the Playboy lifestyle, but I dabbled in the old road of hedonism myself. I think most of us guys have. I mean, come on. I dated a rebellious girl who grew up in a Catholic home, and that's a perfect storm. I mean, and she was a ginger too. That's a perfect storm of fucking sexual energy. I'll tell you that right now. So yeah, when I was a young man in high school in the early 20s, I could have, and I have it in me. I could very easily open the Hellraiser box. I know that about myself. I know that about me. And if I had not come to faith in Christ, I probably would have by now. So yeah, I don't think the attitudes I saw were particularly Christian. I don't think they were called for. Um, as I said, though, there's one thing you don't see from the trad right in all their extollings of Christianity. You certainly don't see a lot of fucking grace. At least I don't. And to some extent, I'm preaching to myself as much as I'm preaching to anybody else on that. Because again, I certainly am capable of the sin of wrath myself. There's plenty of people out there that I despise so much. Were it up to me, not only would they be thrown out of a helicopter, but their whole bloodline while they had to watch. And I know I'm not kidding. I mean, obviously I don't have that kind of power. Obviously I'm not going to attack anyone or anything. But if it were just up to me, if I was king, y'all talk about wanting a monarchy so fucking bad. If I was king, it'd be a whole mountain of skulls I'd be putting up. And I recognize that about myself. I know that about myself. So again, I'm preaching to me just as much as I'm preaching to you. And what I saw those past couple of days, I didn't particularly like, and it's something I see in myself. I don't particularly like, if I'm being honest. And I think the past couple of days was a good mirror. It showed me something that's probably true of me that needs to not be true. What is that little dog getting into? I can't really trust you wandering around on your own yet. You're not totally housebroken. I mean, basically is, but he's still kind of a puppy. So, not totally housebroken. But there's one thing I know about him. So he likes these little treats. And that's the thing about bribery, folks. It works. Oh yeah, you want one of these, don't you? Yeah, you want one, huh? You want one of these, Little Jacks? You want Little Jacks? Yeah, I bet you do. Well, you're gonna behave a little bit, aren't you? Alrighty. Hopefully he stops getting into trouble. Keep the dog safe from Whitney, Wisconsin. Somebody in the chat said, send shekels to Bechtloff so he can buy a helicopter. Yeah, there's some helicopter. Need to helicopter rides need to go. Bechtloff skipping all the good comments. I wasn't really looking at the chat for a while there, guys. Let's see. Somebody says, Bechtloff, just saying, but it's good to hear you show sympathy and mercy towards a passed-on sinner. That's a great sign of sincere Christian faith. Well, thank you. It's particularly easy when you know it's a sin you yourself are prone to. TJ Kirk wants to live like Hefner, only with traps. It's even worse. He likes the fucking female to male trannies. Which is, I would think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't exactly have my finger on the pulse of the LGBTQ elemental P community, but I would think that, like, female to male trannies would have an even harder time getting laid than a male to female. What the hell? What the hell is that? Oh, that's what he was getting down for. I see. I see. He needed to go out. Sorry about this, folks. In the middle of this living room is a patch of bricks where there used to be, I don't know, I guess like a wood stove. And he went up and piddled on it. And I just heard it run down one layer of the bricks to another. I was wondering why I was hearing what sounded like water running. Oh, buddy. No, you were fussing, so you did. That was kind of my bad. Sorry about that, folks. Not sure if you even ever heard any of that, but let's see. Somebody says at least the little guy was smart enough not to piss on the rug. Well, yeah. Somebody says Hefner was an unrepentant sinner, but not one that should be cursed, but one that should be pitied. As I said, he was trapped within his own success. Yeah, I think that's fair. Somebody says, I don't fully agree with Bechtloff or Hefner's detractors. Bechtloff is TJ Kirk. Is he Donkey Kong's half-retarded brother that loves anal bananas? I'm not sure what. Let's see. You wish more women would think twice about entering something like the Playboy Mansion. Not that I want to completely bash women or the celebrities that made bad decisions there. Well, I mean, honestly, the mansion itself, and I don't know if it could be even run down a bit these days, and who knows how many stains are all over the place. But the mansion itself is quite beautiful. I mean, if you've seen like the grotto and stuff like that, I would hope they'd turn that into like a luxury hotel or something with Playboy inevitably folds. Somebody says, I'm pretty neutral on Hefner. I see him as a very smart porn peddler who was trapped within his own business empire. That's my take. Again, I really don't think what Hefner peddled was porn. Yeah, you could fap to it. I mean, you could fap to Maxim. I wouldn't call Maxim porn. yeah, I don't really consider Playboy porn. I mean, you can definitely argue that it's not the best lifestyle to be pushing, that sort of, endless party hedonist, you know, forever a bachelor sleeping with, sleeping you around kind of lifestyle. I mean, basically, you Hefner pushed the lifestyle of the most interesting man in the world from those beer commercials. And that's not a real lifestyle to aspire towards. Um, so he says, anybody else going to Comic Con? Oh, I can't. I did a few cons over the summer. I can't justify going to any more of them. I mean, I didn't buy a lot of any of those cons, but even just going to a con is expensive. Travel, and if you're staying at a hotel, especially the ticket. I mean, it's usually what, $25 to get in the door of one of those places at the very least. Because I was thinking of going to Retro Game Con here in November. I went last year and it was really nice, and I went a few years before, but I just can't justify it this year money wise. I just can't. Let's see. Bechtloff, Christians who mock Hefner's death are the ones who don't understand the scope and gravity of God's wrath. If they did, they would feel naught but pity and compassion for sinners. Again, I don't get that level of rage. I get it for someone who has really fucked you over. You know what I mean? I get it for somebody who is just malicious. I mean, hell, I can even understand it for like Larry Flint, because I mean, he's a shithead, But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say, Hefner was a good guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. And we're all evil to some extent. That trust me, in God's eyes, we can barely imagine how repulsive, our sin is. But by worldly standards, by earthly standards, he never struck me as a particularly evil man. So he says the rage against Hef is a virtue signal. Well, that's definitely what it is on the left. And I kind of suspect it's a bit on the right. Yeah. So he says, unless you lost your wife or fiance to the Playboy Mansion, you have no reason to be angry with this man. So he says, I can't wait to hear from Diversity in Comics to see if the comic pros who plan to trigger his PTSD to get him arrested went through with it. I mean, come on. We all know like a pussy like Mark Waid is not going to confront anybody. So he says, the problem isn't that there's no grace among the treads. It's that they lack mercy. Well, yeah, I'm sort of conflating grace and mercy, which is, they are two different things, two sides of the same coin, I suppose. Grace is getting what we don't deserve. Mercy is not getting what we do deserve. And yeah, I feel, again, I feel the sin of real wrath in me a great deal. I don't feel any of it towards him. I'm sorry, but the comment is, the problem isn't that there's no grace among treads, that they lack mercy. Often as they see the oversaturated, phony Pope Francis mercy take the opposite extreme of the rejecting legitimate mercy. Yeah, that's fair enough. Maybe those people felt tempted by Playboy and felt Hefner was trying to fuck them over. I guess. I definitely feel like the lady doth protest too much with them. I mean, especially these days, the Playboy is even a blip on you. I mean, you're a couple mouse clicks away from a donkey show, and you're mad at Playboy. And yeah, you could argue that Playboy kind of led to that. But let's be real. There's been porn. I mean, there's basically been porn forever. But even in the United States history, I mean, the 20s, for example, porn was pretty easy to find. I mean, there were little vending machines. You put a nickel in, and you watched a fucking strip show. I mean, there's always been porn. Now, yeah, we have an oversaturation of it now because of technology, because of the internet. But again, I don't consider Playboy porn, and I never really have. Yeah, it's dirty, and you can jack off to it and stuff like that. But I mean, it, no more than like an R-rated movie or something. I mean, you ever seen that movie Wild Things? Denise Richards. It's a good movie, by the way. There's some scenes in that movie you could definitely pump one out to, if you know what I'm saying. I wouldn't call that movie porn. Yeah, something like Hustler or Penthouse. That's just straight up porn. Um, So in the chat says, I'm very glad I don't know what a donkey show is. Yeah, but you will inevitably Google it now. Curiosity will get the better of you. So it's only a matter of time. Just make sure you have your safe search on. That's, of course, when a girl is having sex while playing Donkey Kong, just so you know. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. Not everyone who read Playboy became a crumb-encrusted pervert. Again, yeah, you could jack off to Playboy pictorials, but whoopie jack shit. Not considering Playboy porn is naive and shows how far we've fallen. I don't. Yeah, it's just nude pictorials. I mean, do you consider Maxim porn? What about was Maxim magazine porn? Because that showed as much skin as you possibly could without actually showing the, shall we say, the little crotch area and the nipples on a woman. I mean, those were some scantily clad women in Maxim, and trust me, you could pump one out to it. I mean, let me put it this way. I don't know how you define porn. I define pornography as something that exists solely for you to masturbate to. Now, lots of things can be masturbated to. Okay, the weather girl can be masturbated to, depending on what you got going on your local news there. Okay, the women's volleyball teams in the Olympics can be masturbated to. All right, just a picture of a beautiful woman just standing there fully clothed can be masturbated to. Anything is porn by that definition. If can be masturbated to makes it porn, then I mean, you're hard pressed to find things that aren't. Somebody says, are you really making the I read it for the articles argument? Well, I don't really read it at all, if I'm being honest with you. I've read it in the past. It's something a bit juvenile about it. I mean, it sort of outgrew Playboy as a young teenager. Not young teen, older teenager, young adult, where it's like, but no, Playboy wasn't about. Playboy wasn't about pushing porn at you. That's so. I'm trying to be polite here. That's such a simple way to look at it. Playboy was about pushing a lifestyle at you. a fantasy of the sophisticated jet set lifestyle at you. That's what Playboy was about. It wasn't, yeah, there were nude girls in it. Whoopie jack shit. You know, I mean, again, is it, and I make no apologies for it. Somebody years ago got me a little hardcover book for Christmas of like, old Playboy pictorials of redheads. And I basically consider it an art book. I've never jacked off to it in the years that I've owned it. And behind me, and the shelf behind me is a book, Naughty and Nice, which is a collection of Bruce Timm artwork. Bruce Timm is the artist that he was the artist behind the Batman the Animated Series and Superman and the Justice League cartoons. Those cartoons DC did. Before that, he actually did the artwork in the little comic books that used to come in He-Man action figures. And he has a very old school style, and he's very good with babe art. And I got this big coffee table book of just pinup art that he did, of cute and vixens and girl next door types, and some are characters, some are just doodles he did, some are just, and some of it's nudes, some of it are little nude drawings. I don't consider it porn. I consider it an art book. Now again, I get that that's a little bit I get that's not exactly the clearest of lines, but again, something that's porn is something that exists solely to be masturbated to. Simply saying something can be masturbated to is not porn. Somebody in the comments here says, I fat to Saved by the Bell as a kid. And yeah, was that porn? Because trust me, I could crank one out to Kelly Lebowski too. I certainly could have back in the day. I probably did. But that's not porn. It's just a TV show that has a hot chick in it. She says the alt-right fapster Richard Spencer. Can we please ban him as porn? Yeah, I don't think inherently just nude photography is porn. The chat says I fapped to Screech. Screech actually has, that actor has a sex tape out. No lie. But yeah, I don't consider Playboy porn. If you call Playboy porn, you have to call Maxim porn, because Playboy is just a step above Maxim. Playboy was rated. Maxim was PG-13. Playboy was R, but neither one was rated X. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you could definitely argue that the lifestyle both those magazines, Maxim and Playboy, promoted was, I mean, kind of a, permanent adolescence, never, a selfish lifestyle. I mean, I've heard some people describe it as sort of the heterosexual version of the homosexual lifestyle, where you're just, having cocktail parties your whole life and banging sluts, That's probably more destructive than, nude pictures of girls. I mean, otherwise you got to be like, oh, society went downhill when those soldiers in World War II had painted girls on the side of their fucking airplanes or something. I mean, guys like looking at pretty women. I mean, women are the decorative sex. So he says, I fapped to Ann Sturgeon killing and eating deers with her bare hands. Well, I mean, in all fairness, that does sound like something you can easily fap to. I mean, Here's a Christian ask, hey, Bechtloff, you bigot, will you be donating to Trans Tithe for your evil Christian Oh, this is great. Somebody pointed this out to me on Twitter. It might have even have been, no, it was Anti-Dem. I saw him pointed out on Facebook. He doesn't, I'm sure he has a Twitter account still, but he doesn't post or anything. He's just keeps an eye on shit. Let me see if I can bring it up without going all fucking robot. Let's see. Okay, that's not right. Come on. Trying to bring it up here. I was going through my mentions. I should just go on my profile. Hopefully bringing up another window didn't make me go all robot. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Ellie Cruz Lopez. Today I'm launching Tithe Trans. Christians give your tithes towards gender-affirming surgeries. And he continues on with other tweets. His campaign is meant for people who say not all Christians to put the tithe money where their beliefs are. Every trans person's experience is different. Not everyone needs surgery. But for those that do, it can get hard to get access to. Blah, 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 blah. A whole bunch of bullshit here. Here we go. This is a way for Christians to begin to pay reparations for theology that has disparaged trans people's bodies and caused them so much harm. Oh, man. You know, like, every once in a while, this is something else I don't get. If you're convinced that, like, what you're doing is right, I mean, I can understand fighting for, like, I don't want you to push your laws on me kind of thing. Like, if you're a fag and, you know, you're fighting with the Christians. I can understand fighting against a sodomy law, an actual law that's stepping in. But when you get to the point where you're fighting against opinion, that shows me you're not really comfortable with who you are. Here's the thing. Every once in a while, I like to have a drink, right? Now, there are some religions out there, false ones, but Islam, for example, Mormonism, I believe, that believe that just drinking alcohol at all is inherently sinful. I'm not bothered by that. Provided none of them are attempting to outlaw my occasionally having a drink, I don't care that they think that, because I think they're full of shit. Ergo, if some fag or some tranny is upset that Christianity doesn't accept their lifestyle, the fact that they need acceptance from strangers shows you that they know deep down inside what they're doing is wrong. The fact that they need constant affirmation. I mean, again, I don't need constant fucking affirmation from strangers because they may think, this thing you're doing is wrong. Go fuck yourself then. Okay? Again, provided they're not trying to, outlaw a thing I'm doing. So again, I can understand homosexuals saying, well, we have to fight against sodomy laws, for example. Okay, I can understand that. You don't want this thing that you do to be outlawed. Fair enough. I'm not particularly big on that either. As I've said before, I have no interest in police going door to door checking people's assholes for cum. All right, that's no interest in that. I have no interest in policing what goes on in your bedroom. I keep your bedroom off fucking Main Street, I would say, but I would agree with the idea that what goes on in your bedroom is what goes on in the bedrooms of two or more consenting adults, is not the government's business. I would agree with that statement. But again, Main Street's not your fucking bedroom. And constantly needing me to throw you a fucking parade and bake you a dildo cake shows me that you don't really believe that. Oh man, John Steele just said Catholic priests would love that door-to-door job. That's pretty good. That's the worst duty you ever imagined. The Law and Order. Yeah, Law and Order, cum-filled assholes division. If your worldview, somebody says, if your worldview is so fragile that it requires 100% acceptance, it deserves scrutiny. Somebody says, Bechtloff, did you watch that link on the Headship of Christ sermon? I linked you in Skype. If so, I didn't watch it yet. People send me lots of videos. I try to bookmark them and watch them all, but Law and Order Special Rectum Unit in the criminal justice system. Dun dun. Special prolapse unit. Rectal-based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are the stories of the law enforcement officers who investigate your asshole. What was the old South Park bit with the TSA? I just needs to check your asshole, sir. Oh, man. So he says, you know what the Jewish version of a porno mag is? A bank statement. Oh, Lordy. Somebody says trans titans. Sodomites fear judgment more than death. Let's see. Somebody says, who hasn't fat to Blair White? Not me, no. A bullet would be gender affirming. What else we got here? Bechtloff, I saw a sermon where the preacher said that Christians shouldn't make gay jokes because it makes gays feel bad. What do you think about that? I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, I can understand the argument of, you should be more loving to them. You should be trying to save their souls, not necessarily win an argument with that. I get that. And there are a lot of ways in which I feel like there's a lot of ways in which the church has failed the homosexual. And what I mean by that is there's either two camps. There's the full-on cucks that are just like, we should just accept it, or whatever. And then, I mean, and I don't think I have to explain to my audience what's wrong with that. But then there's the other side where it's like, and again, this comes back to what I said about Hefner, where it's like, you're not even seeing them as a lost soul. You're seeing them merely as someone to have a fucking political battle with. And don't get me wrong, I mean, to some extent you have to. I think the last few years, if nothing else, have taught us that, they will not ever stop. They will not leave you alone. They do not wish to just themselves be left alone. That's all bullshit. But at the same time, these are people. And again, I'm preaching to myself just as much as I'm preaching to you. Trust me, there's plenty of motherfuckers I want to throw out of helicopters. And, that may indeed be necessary at some point. but make sure you have a pastor there to at least tell them the gospel one last time. You do have to have justice. You do have to have that, and at times very ugly things have to be done. But you don't want to lose sight of the fact that they are people. So to some extent, I get the argument of we should be trying to reach out to them. That said, though, you know what? If you can't take a fucking joke, gay, straight, black, white, whatever, if you can't take a fucking joke, you need to just get the fuck over yourself. Let's see. Why do leftists want to teach prepubescent about gay sex? Well, because that's kind of how gays reproduce, as it were. It's sort of a mental virus. I really don't buy the genetic argument. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are more predisposed to it genetically, but I think it's mostly a learned thing. It's mostly, yeah. Can't wait for the My Little Pony reboot. My Little Pony butt sex is magic. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Sooner or later, this show always devolves to comic books and butt sex. Just lean back and let it happen. Yeah, that's what I told her. Saw a meme on Facebook the other day where it was like the Earth can fit into Uranus 73 times or something like that. It says 74 if you just relax. Oh, how about the Commie West Point grad? That's a good topic. And that's a keen example of why I've never been of the mindset of support my troops and just worshiping the fucking military. I respect the level of discipline inherent in having to be a soldier. I mean, obviously, the physical training standards alone are demanding, and I respect that. That doesn't make you a good person, though. Again, years ago when everyone was sucking Chris Kyle's dick, I've never even been impressed with him. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Now what needs to happen to him is he needs to be dishonorably discharged. At the very least, he needs some manner of disciplinary action, because even the communist thing aside, it is extremely illegal for a soldier to push some sort of political agenda while in uniform. Political activism while in uniform is highly, highly illegal for a soldier. Somebody says, was he identified and is he being disciplined? Yes, he was, and something's happening to him. We're not sure yet, but the matter's being investigated. Who knows if it's going to get swept under the rug? I hope not. If it were up to me, I mean, we'd throw him out of a helicopter. Again, getting back to my sin of wrath, we'd wipe out the whole bloodline just to be sure. This kind of reminds me of another interesting thing. Let me see if I can bring it up on the old Twitter machine. So I want to actually get the what was actually said here. This is from IDW's new G.I. Joe comic. It's describing the formation of GI Joe in this current reboot. It's like they made something impossible. A unit in the military that recruited anyone who washed out at 48 push-ups. It was daring, highly trained special mission force, completely made up of people who were the wrong color, the wrong affiliation, the wrong political affiliation, too loud, too whatever, the wrong color in the fucking military. Are you kidding? The military is actually highly disproportionately not white, believe it or not, compared to the overall population. But like washed out, like G.I. Joe. And again, I mean, you know, I used to love that cartoon back in the day. G.I. Joe used to be this, you know, special, this highly trained elite special forces unit, and now it's motherfuckers that couldn't pass PT training in fucking boot camp. Come on. I mean, you know, go look up the intro, the long GI Joe intro, right? Like the one that's like 2 minutes or 3 minutes long or something like that, where they're fighting Cobra at the Statue of Liberty, and that is the most fucking America thing you'll ever see. All right, it makes you wish the movies were good because you're just watching it like, why couldn't we had live action movies of this? That would have been the tits. Let's see. Yeah. Fighting for social justice wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. Somebody said he's also insubordinate and careless about the commie West Point guy. That doesn't. Wow, a communist is careless? How about that? A communist isn't a good worker. How about that? Who could have ever foreseen? Chris Kyle was a liar and a sociopath. He was definitely a liar. I mean, everyone shat on fucking Jesse Ventura for, you know, doing that lawsuit even after Chris Kyle died. But that's because Chris Kyle fucking slandered Jesse Ventura, I guess, in like his book or something. He outright lied about him. And oh, you know, the Chris Kyle's poor widow had to pay out. Well, you know, maybe Kyle shouldn't have fucking lied about another veteran. You know, fuck Chris Kyle. And fuck everyone who wants to suck his dick. You know, I really actually, and don't get me wrong, I mean, Snowden's kind of a pussy at times, but I really did like that meme that was getting passed around a few years ago. It was like a picture of Snowden and a picture of Chris Kyle next to each other, and it says, one of these men risked his life and, you know, put everything on the line to defend your freedom. The other is Chris Kyle. Fuck Chris Kyle. Remember when the G.I. Joe cartoon had a moral at the end of the episode, like don't do drugs or something? Oh, yeah, the little PSAs at the end. Well, that's because, you know, for the time it was a pretty violent cartoon. So they had to get the censors off their dick. And they're like, see, we're teaching kids about not doing drugs and, you know, don't talk to strangers or something. And now we know. Knowing is half the battle. So he says Cobra got rid of all the nukes in the second movie. Yeah, Cobra actually... Cobra managed to actually do some good in the second movie. The second movie actually wasn't bad. I kind of like the second movie. The first one is ass. It's just terrible. And like at the very end, when the guy finally becomes Cobra Commander, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, finally, this movie's getting kind of okay. And then it's over. Yeah, the first one was ass. And I was excited about it. I mean, live action G.I. Joe should be a fucking easy movie to make. Cobra did nothing wrong. Yeah, you know, I never liked Transformers that much as a kid, but I liked G.I. Joe as a kid. I had Like the only reason I never got the toys is because I was way more into Ninja Turtles and they weren't to scale with Ninja Turtles. If they were, I probably would have like gotten both and then like just imagined it both in the same universe or something. Um, but yeah, the cartoon was the tits, man. For an 80s action cartoon, it was pretty damn good. I'd rank it easily better in Transformers. I'd rank it better in like Thundercats. Um, yeah, I liked like G.I. Joe a lot back in the day. And the actual original comic that Marvel published back in the day with Larry Hama writing it, I mean, by Larry Hama's own admission, you know, the thing was basically a glorified toy catalog. But at the same time, he told some really cool stories in there. Um, no, he is half the battle. The other half is helicopter rides. By the way, if you've never watched Robot Chicken, some of their G.I. Joe skits are fucking hilarious. They did one where it's like a G.I. Joe, like, it's like Cobra training video for people working for Cobra. And like they're in this like warehouse, you know, and they're like the guy's like, you know, being interviewed and he's like, safety is job one here at Cobra. We've gone over 48 days, or no, we've gone over like whatever, 48 days since our last recordable incident. He's like, yeah, the weather dominator exploded. And he pointed to the ceiling and there's like guts, there's like chunks of a body up on the ceiling. And they're like, you could still see bits of Hank up there. Yeah, we really should get him down, but we don't have a fork truck tall enough for it. We've been chucking a softball at him, but he's up there pretty good. And then there's like one guy who's like making clone troopers for Cobra, and like all of them come out and they go like, "Hail Cobra!" And he's like, "Yeah, hail Cobra!" And he's just, you know, pulling the lever on the machine, making them. And then one comes out all like retarded, and it's like, "No, no, bro!" And he pulls out an axe and goes after. He's like, "Hang on a second, guys." So he says, Bechtloff, what would you think of a Captain Atom versus Major Force movie? It could work. Captain Atom's a cool character. Um, let's see. He says, what 80s cartoon wasn't a glorified toy catalog? Let's see. Hang on. Sorry, I was reading the chat there. Got quiet for a while. David Serini says, my parents didn't let me watch G.I. Joe. They worried it would have a negative influence on me, and I joined the military. Well, it does make the military seem like so much fun. Get to hang out with Sergeant Slaughter and a ninja. That seems cool as hell. Somebody says, what 90s cartoon wasn't a ripoff of TMNT? Oh, a lot of the action cartoons were, that's for sure. Fucking Street Sharks, anyone? I gotta say, though, the Street Sharks look cool as shit. Like, the actual creature designs on them were fucking awesome. I mean, the cartoon was ass, but, like, they looked cool as hell. He-Man and the totally hetero Masters of the Universe. I fucking loved He-Man when I was really little. Like 4 or 5, 6, something like that. Like right before Ninja Turtles, I guess it was. So I guess it was like 4 and 5. Because Ninja Turtles came out in 88, I think. Well, the cartoon came out in 88. But yeah, like right before Ninja Turtles, I was all about fucking He-Man. Let's see. He says, I have the power. Yeah, He-Man was fucking awesome. There was a, because DC is doing comics for He-Man and Thundercats right now. And there was actually a crossover between the two, which was pretty good. Pretty fun read. Like, anybody who was a fan of either one of those should probably check it out. Worth your time. Somebody says the current Transformers comic has a gay couple. How are robots even gay? Somebody said Bucky O'Hare was weird and surprisingly good. That comic was actually the comic Bucky O'Hare that the cartoon was based off was actually created by Larry Hannah, the guy who had written all the G.I. Joe stuff back in the 80s. Somebody said Pirates of Dark Water. I never really got into that cartoon as a kid. So Craig Langley says, I'll make a Pirates of Dark Water live-action film trilogy one day. I could see it working. Bechtloff, the current Transformers comic, has a transsexual Transformer. Think about that one. Somebody needs to take a picture of Blair White or just any tranny that's actually passable and just Photoshop the Transformers more than meets the eye. Logo under it. But no, for fuck's sake, how the hell is a robot transsexual? I mean, I know I'm overthinking it, but that. I mean, yeah, okay, it's stories about robots fighting and stuff. You guys suspend your disbelief. That's fine. But you got to meet me halfway there, okay? You can't just be complete bullshit. You got to be halfway trying. Somebody says the 90s Spider-Man cartoon was really good. Actually an adult for once instead of a dorky teenager. Yeah, I like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon a lot. It was one of the big things that got me into comics, actually. That really, along with the 90s Batman, and to a lesser extent, the X-Men cartoon. They never really put the 90s Spider-Man on DVD. There was a few oddball episodes that got released on DVD, but the whole series never got released. I actually have it on bootleg DVD, though. Transformers, Transception. What's next? A transsexual train and Thomas the Tank Engine? I wouldn't doubt it. By the way, Thomas the Tank Engine, I've always thought this looks creepy as shit to me. I can't be the only one that thinks this, but I barely remember it really being on as a kid. I mean, it's really old, so I know it was around back when I was a kid. At least I'm pretty sure. I think it's very old. But I don't remember watching it at all as a kid. But kids these days, little kids these days fucking love it. My one cousin was obsessed with it. Actually, I have a couple of cousins that were all into it when they were little kids. And I mean, I just think it's really fucking creepy. And out here in Stroudsburg, which is a little town very close to me, there's actually a railroad museum, and there's a whole big railroad thing down there. And they actually have a thing where little kids can ride on an actual real fucking train that is done up to look like Thomas the Tank Engine. A life-size fucking Thomas the Tank Engine is pulling this train. And it is horrifying. I'll see it sometimes. I'll drive by it when they're doing it. And it's oh my God, look at the fucking demon train. Coming to take your soul to hell. Just sitting there can't sleep. Train will eat me. Thomas's appearance in Ant-Man was pretty funny. Oh yeah, when he grew the Thomas the Tank Engine toy train. giant size. Um, you just know as soon as the train leaves the station, George Carlin starts cursing and telling you about real life. Fuck, that's right. He was the conductor in that, wasn't he? Was that the same thing as Thomas the Tank Engine? Or was that something else? I thought that was something else, like, I don't know, fucking mustard fart station or something. I didn't know that was the same thing as Thomas the Tank Engine, but yeah, he was a conductor in one of those shows. Bechtloff, the diverse version of Thomas the Tank Engine is Jamal the Soul Train and his uptown girlfriend Tiffany the coal burning engine. That would be fucking fantastic. If you just suddenly like had like a white sounding train dating a black sounding train and just sort of emphasized that the white girl train runs off coal. Oh shit. So he says Ringo Starr was also Mr. Conductor. I kind of remember that too, yeah. Wasn't George Harrison the voice of one of the Animaniacs? Or was he just trying to sound like George Harrison? I can't remember. Like Wacko. Wasn't that George Harrison? I can't remember. Because I remember as a kid, like I love that show as a kid. My dad's like, that sounds like George Harrison. And I'm like, maybe it is. And my dad's like, oh, he wouldn't be doing it right now. And I'm like, and I just the innocence of a child, I just looked at him like, well, what else is he doing? My dad was like, well, maybe you're right. Um, let's see what we got going on here. Thomas the Uncanny Train. Yeah, that train runs right into the Uncanny Valley, that's for sure. Jess Hamill was Wacko. Okay, so it wasn't George Harrison. Bechtloff was all about the Rugrats as a kid. Now, the Rugrats sucked. Ugh, that always sucked. I mean, like, I'd watch it as a kid just because, you know, you got nothing else to do, so you just watch what the hell's on sometimes. And everybody was talking about how good it is, so I'd, like, just kind of watch it sometimes, but I could never really get into it. I mean, it was better than Doug, because at least it wasn't sheer fucking boredom. But yeah, and how did Rugrats was on for like 10 years for a kid's show? That's amazing. That's that's like an adult show being on for like 30 years. Somebody says, gotta love Mark Hamill's voice acting. Yeah, not just the Joker, also the voice of the Hobgoblin in 90s Spider-Man cartoon. Basically doing the same voice, but somebody says Aeon Flux's animation makes one vomit. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that cartoon looked like shit. I never really watched much of it just because I couldn't get past the animation style. Somebody says, fucking Daria plebs. You know, my high school sweetheart really loved that show. I mean, I didn't hate it. Like I'd sit there watch it with her, but I never really got into it. Like it was, you know, like if you got a girlfriend that likes a show, a lot of times best you can hope for is it's tolerable. Like you don't mind her putting it on. I mean, it had funny moments, but for the most part, it was often insufferable. But it never really got so bad that I like couldn't stand it. I mean, early Beavis and Butthead was offered insufferable too. The really early, like the first season of Beavis and Butthead is just way too much fucking shock value. It forgets to ever put anything remotely resembling a joke in it. Um, that was all about the '90s Batman cartoon. Oh yeah, that was great. That's probably, in my opinion, the greatest animated show ever. Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah, that was okay, but it was kind of a joke that got old after a while. Like Celebrity Deathmatch should have never been like an actual show, like with weekly episodes. It should have just remained something that they did, like during the halftime show at Super Bowl or something. If they had kept it just once in a while, it would have stayed fresher longer. Daria was a Beavis and Butthead spinoff. Yes, it was. Um, shit, Bechtloff. What was that Chris Farley cartoon where he played himself as a fat kid and a fat family? That kind of funny. I think you're thinking of somebody else. Oh man, what the hell was that? I don't think it was Chris Farley. I think it was some other comedian where he was like a fat kid, and it was like his family life and all, and he did the voice of his dad because in his stand-up bit he would do the voice of his dad a lot too. Um, that wasn't Chris Farley though, but I think I know the cartoon you're talking about. Louie, Life with Louie. That's what it was. Somebody in the chat said it. Yeah, it was Louis Henderson, or I think was the comedian's name. Yeah, it wasn't Chris Farley though. I don't really remember much about that cartoon. Um, like I couldn't really tell you if it was good or not. Um, let's see. Wasn't the uncle voiced by John Candy? No, I think that was a little after John Candy's death, because John Candy's death was like early '90s. I I, I remember that John Candy had like a cartoon called like Camp Candy, where he was like a camp counselor at like a summer camp. I as a kid, I remember thinking it sucked. It was like it was on a lot. Like they were really pushing that damn thing. Um, Rosie O'Donnell had her own cartoon, her own series. I guess. I guess you're talking about cartoons. I don't remember anything about that. Strange how well liked Rosie was during her talk show days. Well, you have to remember when like she first started doing her talk show. Um, she was completely apolitical. She was just all about being really super nice and friendly and happy and shit like that. Um, and that's, I mean, the first year or so, she was extremely popular because of it. It was like '96 or '97. She became fucking huge. So he says, anyone remember Cadillacs and dinosaurs? Vaguely. Um, John Candy's passing was tragic. Yeah, he was a funny actor. Um, Somebody says best part of Roseanne was Dan. Oh yeah, John Goodman made that show watchable for the first few seasons of it. Because John Goodman's just a funny guy. Um, um, Series of unfortunate events, movie and books and series is surprisingly based all about the incompetence of parents' family, and one of the evil henchmen was a tranny. I mean, I never read the books. It was a little after my time, I believe, but I mean, because they were kids' books. But I did see the movie with Jim Carrey and thought it was really good. I haven't had a chance to catch a series. I think that's on Netflix. You kind of reminded me of it. I did sort of want to catch it. The cartoon with Rosie O'Donnell was called Little Rosie. I don't remember that at all. Let's see. John Goodman as Linda Tripp back on SNL was really well done. I think John Goodman's one of those guys a lot of people thought was an SNL cast member for a while because he just hosted the show so damn many times. Let's see. How long have I been going on here? Might go ahead and wrap this up soon. Somebody says there should be a new Ghostbusters, but with John Goodman, Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, and Dan Aykroyd. The biggest mistake of that fucking girl Ghostbuster thing was making it a reboot instead of a sequel. Now, I mean, imagine if like the story was, the last retiring Ghostbuster sells the franchise to these women, and then they want to make a go out of it, like they buy the equipment and the franchise rights and stuff. It probably would have still sucked because of the people involved in making it, but at least wouldn't have been right out of the get-go a spit in the fans' faces, Sort of a next generation of Ghostbusters wouldn't have been a bad idea. In fact, they did a cartoon like that in the 90s called Extreme Ghostbusters because it was the 90s and everything was extreme. Where, and it was all like diversity. It was like a Latina girl and another black dude, and like the white guy was in a wheelchair or some shit like that. For reasons. But yeah, that would have actually been, shit, they could have made a live action version of that. And, it would have scratched the diversity fucking itch and at least would have had a chance of not sucking giant dick. Somebody says the SNL set is fucking tiny. It's amazing how small it is in person. Yeah, I've never been to it, so couldn't tell you. The real Ghostbusters cartoon is on Netflix now. That was actually a really good cartoon, at least for the first couple seasons. It ended up getting interfered with in the by the network executives. That's when it started calling itself Slimer and the Ghostbusters. And that's when it kind of turned into ass. But the first couple seasons of the Ghostbusters cartoon are actually damn solid. We got going on in chat here. Bechtloff, I heard Leslie Jones in talks to play Queen Kong in a live action King Kong reboot. That is one ugly ass fucking woman. I mean, there's no getting around it. That is a hideous, hideous woman, and not remotely funny or charming or anything. That I just Supposedly that's an SNL cast member or something, or was, or whatever. Shows you how fucking far SNL fell. Yeah, that is a hideous far. I always like to say, like, I'm like, remember when they remade Ghostbusters with 3 lesbians and a gorilla? I loved when everyone was calling Leslie a gorilla on Twitter. She's freaking out. And like the one person, like, she's all like, I'm so sick of these racist tweets. And then somebody tweeted under it was like, nobody said all black women were gorillas, just you. Uh my little ghost who died of AIDS should be the bad guy in the next Ghostbusters sequel. Oh man. Oh. It's like no wonder Hollywood, no wonder the entertainment industry is just hemorrhaging money. It's like it's so simple. It would be so simple to turn this shit around. Like remember when you actually used to make movies? Like do that again. I mean, all these entertainment like companies and franchises and stuff that are just running themselves into the dirt. It's such death by suicide. It would be so like Marvel Comics. You could turn Marvel Comics around in a month. In a month, you could turn that shit around, and they'd be selling like a candy coated AIDS cure because people really like Marvel characters right now. The movies are the only thing Hollywood can make any money off of. Fucking football. You managed to fuck up the most sure thing among entertainment properties. Fucking football. You managed to chase that fandom away. Holy shit. I mean, movies. I mean, just fucking make movies again. Even if you insist on rebooting older properties, like here's a thought. Maybe actually get somebody involved in the project that knew why those properties were popular in the first fucking place. I mean, these SJWs could not run a bordello in a gold rush. It's staggering how bad they are at everything. Let's see. Chat. What's going on in the chat? I say we bring back Silver Samurai to Marvel with a new Elektra. They kill the weak one shot by Scalp Hunter, and then we start over. Yeah, there's very few characters in Marvel I consider just irredeemable. Like you just couldn't do anything with them. The Durka Miss Marvel's one of them. That character's got to go. That's actually a symbol of everything wrong with Marvel right now in my eyes. It's like how like the X-Men character Cable became a symbol of all the dumb shit from the 90s. Like big, stupid, oversized guns and fucking pouches everywhere and artists that can't fucking draw, which, I mean, we have artists that can't draw now, but like, just overblown, extreme bullshit like that. Like Cable almost became kind of a symbol of that. And to me, like, fucking Durka Miss Marvel is the same way. That character is basically irredeemable. Somebody said, John Steele says, did Remy LaCroix, or LaCroix, however you pronounce her name, have her baby yet? I don't know. We got Zach the Bong Ripper, her husband, in in the chat. Maybe he can tell us. I love that this guy took that name after I was making fun of. It's so funny because we're sitting there talking about how this ex porn star Remy LaCroix, how she's having a baby and stuff like that, and she's giving up porn because of it. And we're just like talking about like that poor fucking kid. You know what I mean? And then we're like, okay, well, you know, she at least has her baby daddy still in the picture. Let's go see this fine gentleman. And we go over to his Twitter, and it's his name is Zach the Bong Ripper, and he looks like his name should be Zach the Bong Ripper. And I'm just thinking, like, this poor fucking kid. Zach the Bong Ripper says, "Yeah, she did have it, but the baby is black." That really would not surprise me. Zach the Bong Ripper will have a tweet like, "I thought a vasectomy stopped your wife from getting pregnant. Instead, it just changes the color of the baby." Oh man. Oh shit. Can you imagine being raised by Remy LaCroix and Zach the Bong Ripper? Like that's your symbol of adulthood that you're being raised on. Good Lord. Somebody says suicide at 12 for that kid. What last name will the kid take? LaCroix or the Bong Ripper? Zach the Bong Ripper says, "I'm going to raise it though because his biological father is in prison." Mr. Bong Ripper. Oh, that poor fucking kid. You know, it's one thing when the bully on the playground says your mom's a whore. It's another thing when he can produce hours of video evidence that your mom is indeed the filthiest of whores. Oh, that poor fucking kid. Somebody says, "Bechtloff, here's how Marvel fixes itself. Durga Miss Marvel suicide bombs all the SJW characters in one place at the end." They all die on the way back to their home planet. Hi, I'm Jimmy the Bong Ripper. Oh, man. Zach the Bong Ripper says in chat, "Fuck you, Bechtloff. I bring my Jamal to see his father every month." I can't imagine, like, you're going to settle down and raise a family with one of these ex-porn stars. Like, again, I always use it as an example because it was a porn star years ago I liked back when I watched a lot more porn than I try not to watch any of it now. I've had occasional slip-ups. But, you know, it's bad for you. I'm trying to give it up. But I remember like 10 years ago, there was this porn star, Liz Vicious, and I just thought she was just so fucking hot. I actually like subscribed to her site. It was one of those things where it was like, you know, like $5 for a day, and then you had to cancel it quickly, but I just downloaded a bunch of fucking videos and shit. But I like all she ever did was like a little girl stuff, and she fucked this one guy that was presumably her boyfriend because he didn't look like an actual porn star. You know, he wasn't doing all kinds of porn star stunt dick stuff, you know, and like then some solo stuff, like get naked, dildo herself or something. Like I could see somebody trying to like actually build a life with that girl. She's like left the industry and get reformed. Because like, yeah, it would bother you, but all she ever did in those videos is stuff most girls have done. You know, most girls. I don't know if I should even say most girls, but a lot of girls done a little licky licky with a girlfriend before. And most girls aren't going to be virgins. It's just a sad reality of this world. You're probably not going to find a virgin wife. So, okay, it would kind of upset you that it's all out there, but big deal, whatever. She doesn't keep that name anymore. She's not still whoring herself out on Instagram. That girl completely disappeared from the public spotlight. I could see someone settling down with her. But these girls that do porn now, where they just do the nastiest fucking scenes, they just pass around through all these fucking nasty ass fucking sites. And, holy shit, man. So he says, what is Remy's dick count? It's easily got to be in the triple digits. Um, Zach the Bong Ripper says, you all laugh, but I'm atoning for my white guilt, and it's Mr. Bong Ripper to you a-holes. So he says, paying for porn, shame on you. Well, it was a long time ago, and she was adorable as hell. So, I shelled out a couple of bucks just to get the quick access to download everything. What is Remy's dick count? Somebody says, are we counting in miles? Somebody says, I don't blame girls. If somebody was throwing cash at you to degrade yourself, could you resist? $500 to get naked, you guys would turn it down. Look, I don't know, $500 to get naked, I'd be tempted to do that. I don't know who wants to fucking see my ass naked for $500, but in theory, okay. But you know, it's one thing to get naked. It's another thing to like suck off like 15 Black Panthers in a row or some shit like that. It's working the glory hole or something on a porno or whatever the fuck other getting DP'd and shit like that. Like having somebody piss in your face or whatever the other fucked up shit goes on in porn. That's a little different than somebody just paying you to get naked. It's like show me your balls for $500 would be a lot different than, you know, have 19 guys run a train on you, wouldn't it? Somebody says artistic Bechtloff nudes. Yes, they would be very, very artistic. I can assure you that. Um, they would be the classiest nudes you've ever seen. Bechtloff should start with live webcam first. Davis Arena says, I'm getting naked right now. Me and Space Dog. Zach the Bong Ripper says, so what if Remy can dildo herself with a watermelon? Oh, shit. Probably could too. Sorry, dead air. I was reading some of the chat comments. Um, Richard Spencer strikes me as the sort of man who has nudes in his house, all male. Yeah, like framed and like like in like tasteful, simple black frame with hung up on the wall. Bechtloff, you ever wonder what a porn star's grocery bill is? That's a lot of bananas and zucchini, dude. Well, produce is pretty cheap usually. Produce usually doesn't run you too much. Um, did you mean DP'd or DSP'd? Uh, let's see. Statues and oil paintings of manly Olympian naked men in Spencer's collection. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I could definitely see Spencer being like that. Let's see. Remember, people, next time you grab the cucumber, it's a good chance a Mexican who picked it used it as a dildo in the field. You should definitely wash your produce before you eat it. I don't know if necessarily that happened, but it's still a good idea to wash your produce. So we say since Richard Spencer is Nietzschean, he'd be a total power bottom. I've never actually understood what the fuck a power bottom is, and I don't really want to know. Like, what is the difference? I mean, if you're a bottom, if you're a gay guy and you're bottom, it means you're the one who gets fucked in the ass. I know that much. But like, I don't. What is a power bottom? Like, what do you break your ass is so tight you break the guy's dick off and keep it? I mean, what the hell's a power bottom? So his moral of the day, knowing is half the battle, wash your produce. So he says Richard Spencer has the Roman salute with 25 black men running a train on him. Hey. He only takes white dick, okay? He doesn't race mix. That would be wrong. He takes proud Aryan dick. Apparently a power bottom means you don't scream. God, the gay community is pretty fucked up. Spencer takes black cock missionary. I know because I watched the video with Remy and Jamal. That would be Zach the Bong Ripper there. Richard Spencer secretly has a black flashlight. Power bottom is the cowboy position. Okay. I feel like after I read that, I need like the old NBC, like the more you know, thing to go by. This live stream is starting to get a little gay, just a little bit. Well, that's what happens when you start talking about Richard Spencer. Movie Bob finally got that vertical garden with his fembot. Yeah, but his fembot just wants to be friends. So he says, isn't it reverse cowboy? Reverse cowgirl is really one of those positions that like is it's basically just made for porn. Because it's like it's the perfect way to for those of you, by the way, at home that don't know what reverse cowgirl is, that's where the girl is sitting on the guy's lap getting fucked. You know, she's riding the dick, but she's facing away from him. And porn does that a lot, or you know, probably these days, who knows what the hell it does. You know, shows whole watermelons up there. But it would do that a lot because that's the way to showcase the girl without having to look at the guy. Because, you know, the guy in porn is just this thing the girl's defiling herself with for the amusement of all the degenerates watching it. Which used to be me. I'm not throwing stones. But like I only ever did that position like once with a girl, and it's just like I'm just like basically every time she'd lean back, I just have a face full of her fucking hair all over my face, and it's like this position isn't that great at all. It's honestly a sex position. It's just better for people that are watching it. So he says, you almost feel sorry for Movie Bob, then you remember it's Movie Bob. Well, that's the thing about Bob Chipman. Being Bob Chipman is both his crime and his punishment. Let's see. Somebody just says low T. I'm not with that. Let's see. Richard Spencer's Black Flashlight. A Black Flashlight is like the Da Vinci Code to the alt-right. Movie Bob is just some mutated fungus. Let's see. Somebody just says After Eve. Not sure what that's referring to. Somebody's saying talking about reverse cowgirl. Somebody say I should start a Let's Play career. Ironically, I wouldn't really have any interest in doing a Let's Play. Okay, Bechtloff spoilers for Saturday's live stream. What am I talking about Saturday? I'm probably going to talk about Hefner because you know Saturday I tend to the overall overview of the week because there's a lot of people that listen just to the Saturday show. You know, Hefner, and there'll be I don't know. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I do want to talk about Crowder infiltrating Antifa. That sounds fun. I want to talk about that Richard Spencer Christianity for Cox article that I think he wrote with a dick in his mouth. Let's see. Reverse cowgirl is one of those drunk sex phenoms that is awesome when it perfectly sobers you up and the girl is having the time of her life. And prawn, I guess porn, you mean? Who is packing on more pounds at this point, Bob or Anita? Probably Anita. I mean, Bob doesn't have much further to go. I mean, if Bob gets any fatter, he'll actually look skinny because he'll collapse in on himself like a neutron star. Bechtloff, would you ever do a show on your favorite kung fu and samurai flicks? I'm not all that big on kung fu and samurai flicks, so I mean, I wouldn't really be able to stretch a show out of that. I mean, I don't dislike them, but somebody says Hugh Hefner versus Jerry Falwell would be an epic rap battle. that would actually be really funny. Somebody says I kind of like when a woman does cowgirl. I can relax a little. I like when a woman's on top. That's fun. But now when she's facing away from me and I just got a face full of hair, that's kind of boring. You know, I mean, and I've heard people argue reverse cowgirl. It's just like doggy style, but standing up. Yeah, but with doggy style, she's arching her back, got her kind of ass up. That's a lot better. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to tell you don't do it if you and your wife like it. Because you should be married before you're having sex. But it's not for me. It's not for me. Zach the Bong Ripper says I like to dominate. There's a there's a cock joke in that, given all we were talking about with Remy. Well, maybe Zach the Bong Ripper was actually Remy's pimp the whole time, and he was all like, "Bitch, you better have my money." Let's see. Hey, Bechtloff. Quick one. Opinion on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I don't really think it looks nearly as bad as everyone's saying. Everyone seems to just be like really shitting on that game. I mean, it obviously doesn't have the magic of the old 2D sprite Marvel and Capcom fighting games. But I mean, neither did Marvel vs. Capcom 3. If it were up to me, that'd be kind of a style we'd go back to in these games. I guess I'm the minority in that, but I prefer it. I will say this though, it's become the meme that like, oh, the Virgin Marvel versus Capcom Infinite versus the Chad Dragon Ball Z X or whatever. Whatever the fuck the new like. I would much rather play Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite than yet another shitty Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Bechtloff, you should watch some Let's Plays of DC's Injustice 2. It looks pretty good. Yeah, both the Injustice games looked fine. I didn't really... It's so weird. Like, the Injustice games are really weird to me, because it's like... I like fighting games. I like superheroes. I like DC characters. I even like the comic book prequel to the Injustice game. I think it was one of the best things DC published in the last few years. Certainly during the New 52 era, it was one of the best things they published. And yet, every time I look at Injustice, I'm just sort of filled with meh. And I can't begin to explain why. Every time I see it or Injustice 2, I'm just sort of like, eh. And I really don't understand why. But something about it just doesn't interest me, and I don't know why. Let's see. I really should get to bed soon. What's that I read? Yeah, I pretty much read all this. All right. Well, I think I'm going to get to bed soon. Because I do want to get up early for some stuff. I want to thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed the stream, check out the two sponsors, Veritas Morte and Morte. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, it's down there. Good space opera book. Also, Ravendale, another good sci-fi book. Check them out. And also, if you enjoy the stream, tips of any size are greatly appreciated. That helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And there's a tip jar there where you can, fuck you, pay me, bitch. You got my money. And also, like, comment, subscribe. That's a big help. And if you haven't already, check out the VidMe channel. There's 6 videos on there right now, I believe, and more coming. A few days ago, I handed in the audio for 3 different episodes to Artistic Layman. So there's more coming down the pike. All right. Well, that's all I got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening. Bechtloff out.